Now, when I say the words rhythm of identity, what could this possibly mean? How do these two words even relate, and why should it even mean anything to you? Okay, let's start off by isolating these two words, okay? Now, in music and dance, the meaning of rhythm would be a regular repeated pattern of movement or sound moving between moments of motion and stillness, sound and silence, but both implying a progressive development towards something. So, rhythm, everyone click, 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 click. Okay, there we go. So now we've created a rhythm. Sing. Oh, I want to dance with somebody. Hey, what? I want to feel that with somebody. Okay, cool. Now, in our 20-second concert, we created a rhythm together. And some of you bobbed your head. So there was the rhythm of movement, ultimately the rhythm of dance. Now let's go to identity. Identity is the fact, who or what a person or a thing is. So ultimately, it's the distinguishing character or personality of an individual. Now, why would you even care about identity? Well, truth of the matter is, identity has to do with the human experience. You're given an identity at birth by your parents, but you grow and develop into your own as you continue on in life. Now, to have an identity is to give something a name or a sense of belonging. A sense of belonging gives something understanding. And when you have a level of understanding, it gives it purpose. Now, if we go back to rhythm, but in the context of music and dance, with or without your permission, your body has a relationship with music and movement. Take a baby, for example. If you play the infamous baby shark, your baby will respond accordingly. Of course, they're not in the position to articulate how they feel. They're not in the position to say what it is that they want to do, but they'll probably bob their heads or they'll move their bodies in a really weird way. But that's the relationship that the body has with music and movement. So what is it about music that converts thought and emotion into sonics that belongs so comfortably in everyone's body? And why do our bodies even respond this way? So I'm one of 3 daughters. And like every other child, you wish and you hope that you spend forever with your parents, right? I get to the age of 6 and my reality changes. So one day I went to bed, I had a really bad dream. I dreamt that my father had passed away. I woke up to tell my parents, both alive at that time, to tell them that I dreamt that Papa had passed on. The following day, that dream became my reality. And my father committed suicide. So, as a 6-year-old, how I processed that was that it was my fault. That I was guilty, and if I kept quiet, my father would still be alive. So in essence, I thought I killed my father. Not reasonable, right? And immediately as well, I'm introduced to a totally new category of hurt and pain. Concepts of questions of self-worth, self-doubt creeps in. I have 0 to no confidence at all. And it was from that point onwards where I completely silenced myself. I kept mum, I kept quiet, always kept to myself, was introverted, but I always needed a creative outlet. Not knowing that this creative outlet I felt was a gift from my father before he passed away. Now, before he passed on, he gave me a tape of an infamous group, Kwaito Pioneers, Boom Shaka. I had seen Boom Shaka, I'd seen music videos, I'd seen them perform, and somehow I felt that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to get on stage and I wanted to perform. So he gave me that tape before he died, and I felt like that was my gift. That creative outlet, being dance and performance, became my greatest teacher. And so there are a couple of tools that I want to share with you today that dance had taught me, that I applied in my real life, that got me to a point where I could learn, grow, and overcome. Now, if you're going to start any dance journey, you're going to start off at a dance class, you're going to start off at a dance rehearsal, you're going to engage with a dance teacher or a choreographer, be guided by somebody. Now, a couple of concepts you're going to have to toy with in that time. The first of those concepts will be trust. Trust coming in 3 tiers. 1, you need to trust the fact that your choreographer, that your dance teacher, or whoever is guiding you in that process is going to get you into a better place than when you currently are. The second tier of trust is that you need to trust that the people who are around you, who are most likely strangers, people you're not aware of, people you don't know and have no relationship with, but you've got to trust the fact they're not there to make you feel any less, and you hope that they'll support you. The third tier of trust, and probably the most important of them all, is that you need to trust yourself. And trust the fact that whatever your goal was, whatever motivated you to be in that space, that you'll be able and capable to attain it and even more, surpass it. Now, because you've established these relationships with all of these people, you understand what the power of collaboration is. There's a continuous exchange. There's a back and forth, one that entails for you to listen. A lot of people hear, but people don't listen. And so in that space, you are encouraged to keep quiet, ask questions, but really listen, because you are being guided. And at some point in your life, while you watch your teacher or your choreographer guide you, you tear a couple of pages from their book, because at some point when you're in a position of leadership, you need to be the guide. You need to be the choreographer. You need to be the driver in your own car and not a passenger. And you've got to be able to properly and confidently articulate what it is that you need. And exercising that process of collaboration, that listening and that allowing of yourself to be guided, to then later on guide, allows you to excel. Now, the incredible thing about the dance space, what I love about the dance space, unlike real life, the dance rehearsal space is a space where you are encouraged to make mistakes. Please make mistakes. Unlike in life, where you are watched and judged by people who are equally as imperfect as you, in that space, you are encouraged to make mistakes, because when it is that you make mistakes is where you learn. You learn everything it is that you don't want to do, but you also learn everything that you can do. And in making those mistakes, in sharpening and in chiseling and refining and creating the show that you want to, so that when you get on stage, you're able to perform, in that process of sharpening and chiseling, you really come to understand your range and your ability. You learn how to remove judgment from yourself, which in essence can really break you down. More than anything that can be said about the world to you, the harshest things are probably said to yourself, coming from yourself. And that's why I don't think or feel that you believe or that you should believe everything that you think. Not everything that you think is correct, but you've got to be able to funnel out the difference between the two. Now, when making mistakes, if you get to the point where you're on the stage and you're performing and you forget, improvisation becomes your friend. Now, for those of you who don't know what improvisation is when you've drawn a complete blank. Now you need to recreate something to supplement what you've lost. And the trick to improvisation is that you need to make it seem like it's a part of your rhythm. Because fact is, no one really knows that you've made a mistake except the people who are in the creation process with you. Now you, as an audience member watching, you wouldn't know I made a mistake unless I made it evident. But the trick is to make improvisation your friend, because life is the same way. You prepare for something, you hope for something, you hope and you want for something to go in a certain direction, and then this life thing throws you a curveball, and now you're stuck. Now you're stuck in a situation that you didn't anticipate, and you don't know what to do. Here's what you need to do. Keep going. It's not about having the answers. It's about being in motion. It's about identifying what it is that you still want to attain, to keep going for that goal, and you'll figure out the answers along the way. But don't beat yourself up for not having the answers. Keep going. Don't get stuck in the rut. Like we said in the definition of rhythm, it is the pattern and the relationship between stillness and motion. So if that moment when you're stuck and you don't know what to do next happens, it's a part of your rhythm. Keep going. Now, another thing people need to practice and to change or to be aware of is their relationship with feedback. Now, if I'm on stage and I'm performing, and the source of my feedback just so happens to be someone who expresses enjoyment or joy by keeping a straight face, if I'm the type of person to absorb that feedback immediately, I would assume that I'm not doing well because they're keeping a straight face. Not knowing that an hour later, when I'm on my way to the bathroom and I bump into them into the corridor, then they say to me, "Hey, you're brilliant. That was an amazing show." Now, I wouldn't have known that because I read their immediate feedback as me not doing well. But without any prior knowledge, without me not knowing who they are and how it is they express themselves, I immediately interpret that feedback as a relation to how well or not well I'm doing. But that's incorrect. Because even in that moment where life or performance is giving you feedback, there is a level of self-confidence and trust that will drive you to the end of your performance in the way that you intend, and not what is given to you. And that's the thing about life. It'll give you some feedback, but change your relationship with feedback. Let it be on the surface level. Decide what it is that will alter your path, but don't let feedback be the depths of who you are, because it's not who you are. Now, the thing with feedback is it relates to perception. Perception is also another tricky one. Because as you receive this feedback about yourself, sometimes you may not like what you hear. Sometimes it's not within your favor. But you've got to be able to counter misperception. And how do you do that? You need to honor how you feel, not what I think. By honoring how you feel in a moment of vulnerability, because that's what art is. If you're an artist, if you are a creative, you understand what the process of creating art is. It is a vulnerable place. And sometimes in the process of creating art, you are met with emotions that you tucked away that you didn't want to deal with. Sometimes in art, whether you're a poet, whether you're a painter, whether you're a dancer or a singer, however it is that you express yourself through art, sometimes in the process of vulnerability, you've got to be able to be aware, to acknowledge, and to honor how you feel, so that you can respond accordingly. It takes courage to create art. But even so, you need to be braver to share it. Because once you've shared your art, you are in no control of the interpretation or the perception of your art. Now I want to move it away from a person and I want to relate it to a thing. One of the most authentic things that are changing the world, one zekete at a time. Amapiano. Okay, now Amapiano is an authentically South African musical genre, but I don't want to limit it to just that. It's a people. And the people who create this genre and this sound and this culture are from our black townships. Now, a lot of people can argue where Amapiano is from. We can argue, we can go back and forth, but point remains, it's from our Black youth and from our Black townships. Now, when you hear the sound and this music of amapiano, it's this hybrid of deep house, jazz, lounge music. There's the kwaito bass lines, it's the harmonies, it's the drums, it's the percussions. It's this beautiful melting pot of music coupled with amazing vocals, right? Now, the thing about kwaito is that kwaito is the ancestor of amapiano. And if you hear amapiano, you will hear it in its sonics and in its music. You will hear a lot of kwaito bass lines borrowed, a lot of melodies borrowed from kwaito, right? Now the same thing shows up in dance, where the ancestor of kwaito shows up in the dance moves, okay? So example, right? I'll make this easy for you. Back in the day, Kopeta would have been what? A Kopeta. Right? Reimagine today. This is where we are. Okay? Right. If you take Dombolo, reimagined today, it would be dance. Right? Okay. Okay? And the same thing happens in Kwasa Kwasa. Remember Kwasa Kwasa? Kwasa Kwasa? You remember Kwasa Kwasa? Yeah? Kwasa Kwasa today would be Zekete. And that's the relationship between kwaito and amapiano. And we can confidently say that amapiano is kwaito reimagined in 2021. So what does this say about African identity in dance? It's to simply say that through joy, celebration, whether you're courting someone, in romance, whether it's in protest, in mourning, socially, politically, culturally, individually, or collectively, dance is synonymous with African expression and identity. It's who and what we are.